Today, after a record-breaking 10-hour vote, the House can now move forward with 3 crypto regulation bills. And Republican Congressman Bryan Steil discusses what caused some of his colleagues to vote no on bringing these bills up for debate. Welcome to CNBC's Crypto World. I'm Ryan Baker. Digital currencies are mixed as we keep a close eye on the House of Representatives and pending crypto bills. We'll talk about that in a moment. As of noon Eastern, Bitcoin was little changed, but traded below $119,000. Ether, meanwhile, gained nearly 5.5% and traded above $3,400. And XRP crossing the $3 mark in a 9% gain since yesterday. Okay, let's talk about the push to pass crypto regulation in Washington. Crypto Week is moving forward in the House after a record-breaking delay exposed cracks in support. Opposition from House Republicans on the handling of 3 crypto bills meant a procedural vote stayed open for 10 hours, the longest in modern House history. Then, last night, a group of no votes flipped to yeses, and the lower chamber finally approved rules of debate for those bills. The bills in question are the Genius Act stablecoin legislation, drafted by the Senate, the Clarity Act market structure bill from the House, and an anti-CBDC surveillance state act preventing the Fed from creating a digital currency. Now, even with this latest procedural hurdle cleared, it still leaves questions about whether lawmakers are aligned on crypto regulation. Conservative hardliners initially voted no to the rules on Tuesday and only came on board after many of them met with President Trump. Those conservatives hoped to merge some of the legislation, but lawmakers who drafted some of the measures expressed opposition. The drama on Capitol Hill also threatened to dash the hopes of the crypto industry, which spent tens of millions of dollars to elect pro-crypto candidates, creating one of the largest PACs in America. So where are we as of 3 p.m. Eastern? Well, the House is expected to pick up voting on these measures this afternoon, and if the Genius Act's approved, it will be sent to the president's desk. Democratic Congressman Josh Gottheimer joined Squawk Box this morning to discuss the fate of crypto legislation in Congress. He's encouraging his colleagues to vote for the bills, even though they're not perfect, arguing that it would be worse not to have any progress made.
We've been working on these bills in some form or another for years to finally bring some certainty to the marketplace, to protect consumers. So you've got 2 really good bills that are the result of lots of bipartisan work over the years, and it's time we actually get these done. It's not only good for the economy and making sure that America leads, but to finally protect consumers from a lot of these snake oil salesmen and other crypto that's out there that, as you know, is not exactly on the up and up. It's finally time to actually have not only certainty from a regulatory perspective, but to have protections in place.
And something else we're watching. Crypto platform Coinbase is adding to the dizzying pace of crypto product launches with a new everything app that will replace the Coinbase Wallet. The new Base app will combine the existing functions of the wallet, along with new ones like social media, messaging, and support for mini apps, all run by the company's blockchain network, which sits atop Ethereum. The company is targeting a new set of consumers with incentives and fee waivers as Coinbase looks to diversify revenue streams. This new product comes as businesses ramp up crypto offerings, thanks to the US inching towards regulation and oversight in the form of new laws. All right, let's zero in on the latest from Washington for our main story. Crypto World's Talia Kaplan spoke with Representative Bryan Steil of Wisconsin. The Republican congressman is the chair of the House Subcommittee on Digital Assets and has been a key player in efforting crypto legislation on Capitol Hill. They discussed the latest on Crypto Week as he and his colleagues look to pass multiple bills.
The crypto industry was hoping for a series of legislative wins this week, but up until last night, all they got were headaches, really. On Tuesday, 3 crypto-related bills failed to clear a key procedural hurdle in the House as several Republicans voted with Democrats to block the bills from moving forward. Then more crypto drama unfolded on the House floor yesterday, thanks to another holdup. But late last night, the House adopted a rule to bring forward crypto legislation. That vote took a record 10 hours as GOP leadership worked to win over holdouts. What's your reaction to how Crypto Week is going on Capitol Hill? Is this what you had expected?
I was up in the chair and I gavelled that vote to a close. It actually felt pretty good that we were done and across the line and going to be able to vote on all 3 key pieces of legislation, clean as they were drafted, as they're presented to the House. And so it took a little longer to get to where we wanted to get to, but we got there. And that's what's important. Not lost to anybody. The House, we're narrowly divided. We have a range of views and viewpoints in the House. And so sometimes there's some final conversations that have to be had. Those were had. We got to where we needed to get to. And the good news is all three pieces of legislation, as reported, are going to be voted on with no adjustments to those bills into the home stretch. And so I'm excited for the vote later today.
Now, the measure had been widely expected to pass, and the failure of the rule to advance on Tuesday was a rare case of House Republicans refusing to take direction from President Trump, who urged them to vote yes in a White House meeting and in a post on Truth Social. What does that signal to you, and what was at the root of these disagreements?
Well, I think all of us are united around the broader goal. We want all three pieces of legislation signed into law. There's a dispute about maybe the tactics of how best to accomplish that goal. Obviously, Genius, the stablecoin legislation, when it passes the House, will be on the president's desk, will be signed into law, hopefully by the end of the week. Clarity, market structure legislation obviously needs to leave the House and go to the Senate. To get that bill across and through the Senate, what we want is a strong bipartisan vote later this afternoon in the House to really force the Senate to act and to move that, because we need that legislation signed into law. And then third, the CBDC, the anti-central bank digital currency legislation. There's discussion as to whether or not the Senate was going to pick that up. So there's discussion about adding that to maybe another must-pass vehicle. But we will today have a clean vote on all three pieces of legislation. And so at the end of the day, the final deal is there. But making sure that all members in a narrowly divided House are on board took a little bit longer than we wanted. Fair enough. The good news is we got to where we had to get to.
So the House is expected to vote on the Genius Act stablecoin regulation bill later this afternoon. The Senate passed the Genius Act, as you mentioned, last month, and that piece of legislation looks set to become the first standalone crypto measure signed into law. What do you think happens with that piece of legislation? And if that bill does in fact become law, what will change for the crypto industry?
So I'm optimistic. I think it'll be signed into law by the end of the week by President Trump. So let's assume that occurs. I think what you're going to see a significant investment inside this space in the U.S. And so what was occurring in the Biden administration, in particular with Chairman Gensler at the SEC, was a lot of innovation and development was occurring outside the United States. The reason this legislation is so important is we want to encourage that innovation and development to occur inside the United States, inside our regulatory framework. And I think that'll do two important things. One, it will protect consumers from abuse. And two, it will really establish dollar dominance in a global manner that we haven't seen before. And so I'm optimistic that we're going to see significant growth in payment stablecoins, dollar-backed payment stablecoins. Following this legislation, you're going to see innovation, development, and growth in the United States, and consumers will be protected in a manner that they weren't previously.
Sticking with stablecoin legislation, the Senate's Genius Act is in focus this week, but back in March, you introduced the House's version of a stablecoin bill called the Stable Act. So what happened to that bill? Is it kind of on the back burner now because the Senate passed the Genius Act stablecoin bill already?
From the initial draft of Genius to the version that will be sent to President Trump, what we saw was a lot of advancements and adjustments in the technical aspects of the legislative text. And so we actually worked hand in glove with our colleagues in the Senate. Again, the broader goal was to get payment stablecoin, dollar-backed payment stablecoin legislation to the president's desk, and we're going to achieve that goal. So all of us working together to move forward that legislation was essential. The amendments and adjustments that were made from the initial draft of that text to the text that will go to the president incorporates many of the changes that we were advocating for in my stable legislation. And so I'm excited that the final piece of legislation is strong, it's solid, and will be at the president's desk by the end of the week.
Also on the table, the market structure package called the Clarity Act, which sets rules for when an asset is considered a security overseen by the SEC versus when it's considered a commodity that is overseen by the CFTC. You're a key proponent of this bill focused on establishing clear regulations for crypto. The act was initially expected to pass the House this week, given the bipartisan support when the bill cleared two committees. If the House passes the Clarity Act, I know you said you're optimistic about that, it then moves to the Senate. So what's your timeline for when we could potentially see clear rules of the road for crypto here in the U.S.?
Yeah. Predicting timelines in the Senate is always a dangerous task in the United States Capitol. But here's what I think is important, is later this afternoon, we have an opportunity to have a big vote in support of clarity, meaning not only almost all or all Republicans on that bill, but also a large number of Democrats that we have worked with hand in glove to get this legislative text to a spot where we can ultimately move it across the line through the Senate and signed into law. And so I think if we put up a big number, a large number of votes from both parties, that will really force the Senate to act quickly. We've seen great statements from Chairman Scott, as well as Senator Hagerty, Senator Lummis, and others, that the Senate is ready to act in this space. If we have great success today, I'm optimistic the Senate will begin moving forward throughout the month of September. The sooner, the better. Why? Because I think there's a lot of capital, both human capital as well as financial capital, that is going to pour into the United States in development of blockchain technology, in the development of Web3 technology, and crypto writ large, the moment we get clarity signed into law. And that's why I'm pushing so hard to move this as quickly as we can.
Some House Democrats have chosen their own nickname for this week, calling it Anti-Crypto Corruption Week. House Financial Services Committee ranking member Maxine Waters and other committee Democrats called on lawmakers to vote no on the Clarity and Genius Acts, which they claim give the president the green light to continue crypto dealings in his name. Now, back in May, Representative Waters walked out of a joint hearing just seconds after you called that meeting to order, citing alleged corruption of the president, given his ownership of crypto and his oversight of all the agencies. What's your reaction to these concerns from Democrats, and what do you think this all means for crypto regulation here in the U.S.?
I was chairing that joint committee when Chair Maxine Waters, or Ranking Member Maxine Waters, chose to walk out. I think it was a missed opportunity. I think what we need to do is lean in and make sure that we're getting the regulatory environment correct. And so what we saw in the previous administration was a real lack of clarity of how regulations and rules of the road would be enforced. And so if you hold the view that she does, you should actually be in favor of clarity, because it provides clear rules of the road and enhances the regulatory framework in the digital asset space, protecting consumers and encouraging innovation and development to occur inside the United States. It's for that reason, I think, that we'll actually see later today a large number of Democrats disagreeing with Ranking Member Waters and actually agreeing with Republicans that it's time for the United States to lead in this space. We've had great support from a large number of Democratic colleagues in both the Financial Services Committee as well as the Ag Committee who voted in favor of this legislation when it was at the committee level. And I think you're going to see a lot of folks coming together today to recognize that the path of the last 4 years in having enforcement actions driving forward policy and punishment is not the right way to move. That the right way to move is to provide a clear regulatory framework, as the Clarity Act does. And that's why I'm optimistic we'll see a big vote in favor of this later today.
Okay, that's all for Crypto World today. We'll be back again tomorrow, and we'll see you then.